Hey everybody, welcome to Reflections, the wisdom of Edgar Cayce. We're coming to you as always courtesy of our broadcasting partner moretalk.tv. Joining me this week on the show is Darrin Owens. Darrin Owens has brought authentic enlightenment to countless souls through a powerful psychic gift that he has carried since birth. Since 1995, Darrin has maintained a highly successful psychic intuitive consulting practice, providing spiritual guidance to clients on an international scale. Adding more levels to his professional list, Darrin is an ordained minister, a certified hypnotherapist, and a spiritual healer specializing in spirit releasement and vibrational healing. Darrin is the author of several spiritual classics, including his first, Reader of Hearts, The Life and Teachings of a Reluctant Psychic, also Becoming Masters of Light, Co-Creating the New Age of Enlightenment, and his latest, Mysteries of the Supernatural, A Psychic's Guide Beyond the Veil. Darrin's website is darrinowensofficial.com. And if you'd like to join Darrin at the a.r.e. here in Virginia Beach, he will be putting on a conference on February 20th of 2016. It's an experiential journey into the world of consciousness, energy healing, and supernatural forces, and is entitled Supernatural Discoveries, Your Psychic Ability, Soul Wisdom, and the Unseen Forces. If you'd like to register for this or other conferences offered here at the a.r.e. in Virginia Beach, you can visit our website at edgarcayce.org/conferences. Darrin, thank you so much for being with us today on the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's glad to be back.
Awesome. And Darrin, I've known you personally for a number of years, and I know you've been involved with the a.r.e. for a very long time now, but recently you had the opportunity to spend some time living locally in Virginia Beach. I'm curious, what was that like for you growing up so inspired by the Edgar Cayce readings to finally get a chance to live in Virginia Beach?
Well, it was really interesting because I'm used to mountains and that strong grounding energy, and I lived right on the beach for about a year and a half when I relocated to Virginia Beach. And it was extremely powerful energy. And for me, it was a little too much because you have that huge, ocean coming in and out 24/7. And I was like this barometer, right? So I was constantly getting flooded with a lot of this energy. So for me, coming from the mountains in the Ozarks, it was a little much, but it was expanding for me. I had a lot of awareness and a lot of growth in Virginia Beach in just a short time, about a year and a half working with a.r.e. So it was this God threw me down into the deep end and said, here, learn what you can. And that's what it was like for me. Virginia Beach is very interesting, a little too touristy if you want to, if you're looking at it on that level, but it was really expanding for me. So I enjoyed the time I was there, but was so happy when I got back home. Kind of like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely. And home for you, as you mentioned, is in Arkansas, in the Ozarks, kind of in the mountainous region. Can you tell us now that you're back in Arkansas, looking back in hindsight, how has that helped to kind of play a role on your journey and shape you into the healer that you are now, being back in Arkansas?
It gave me the ability to have more interaction with people, sort of in a concentrated form. I've been doing consultations and lecturing for over 20 years. But being at the a.r.e. gave me the ability to have even a deeper level of intimacy with people on their spiritual level. And coming back now, back home, I have so much more information from my work that I was able to retrieve working with people of the Cayce tribe, and just people from all walks of life. Because again, when you're at the a.r.e., you meet people from all over the world. So it gave me a chance to actually communicate with people that have traveled there, listen to their stories, listen to their journey, listen to how the Cayce material changed their life. So that was really a blessing for me. I really enjoyed that aspect of the work.
Absolutely. And one thing, I kind of want to take a step back here. I wanted, of course, I haven't talked to you in a little while, so I want to see how you were doing, how things were making the transition from Arkansas to Virginia Beach. But I want to shift gears a little bit, Darrin, and for our listeners who may not be familiar with your background and your line of work, I love your background. It's very fascinating. You had a grandfather who was a locally renowned healer, And I'm curious for you growing up in that environment, what was it like being immersed in an environment like that? And how did that shape you as a healer as you came into your own?
Well, it was very interesting because it was in 2012 that I really began to investigate my great-grandfather, James Lawther Chadwick. And I had heard stories when I was growing up, and my mother would tell me stories that he would heal people and stop blood. If somebody was bleeding really badly, he would stop the blood using Bible verses. And I found that fascinating. And I really began to look at that because really I was the black sheep in the family. Even today, my family is still very, we don't want to talk about the psychic stuff. We don't want to talk about the stuff that, James Lawther Chadwick did in those days because all of my family, they're Baptist ministers. So they like to kind of put that in a closet and shut it away. And here I am, going through the closet, throwing everything out that I could find to get to the truth of what this was about. And for me, there was an ancestral link to somebody in my family that also had the ability, a spiritual ability, to heal. And that was like a puzzle piece that came into place for me because I felt so foreign to my biological family. So when I began to investigate this, of course, this kind of healing work goes way back to the Appalachian and the Ozark Mountain healers. They called them power doctors. So they would use the Bible and they would use prayer and have these miraculous healings take place. And so it was really a gift for me to realize, wow, I have sort of this hereditary ability as well within myself that I obviously got from my great-grandfather. So it was kind of a full circle journey for me to actually realize that there was someone else in my family that had this ability to peer beyond the veil and hopefully bring some healing to the planet. So that was very exciting. You get to a point after 20 some odd years of doing this work, is there anything else? And absolutely, God's always revealing something else on your journey. So that was another part of my journey I was excited to discover.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Darrin, I'm curious. I want to take another step back, and I'm curious how have you evolved over the years? How has your identity as a healer kind of changed and evolved over the years?
Well, I never give up the ability to explore because I think that some people can get to a point with their work and they sort of just stay there. I've always been one that how do I want to re-identify myself? How do I want to explore more of the spiritual world, the paranormal world, the supernatural world? And luckily, I've been able to investigate so many aspects of spirituality and religious perspectives in my life. And I always come down to it. It always brings me back to our ideal. And for me, that's always been, Jesus Christ. The Christ consciousness. But exploring all of these other avenues, whether it was through mountain healing or mountain folk magic, superstitions, or going through and understanding hauntings and the paranormal to UFOs and extraterrestrials, it all points back to what are we doing on this planet and how are we contributing as channels of this divine light for this planet. That's really what it's all about. And if I discovered for myself, if your spiritual path isn't helping you become a brighter beacon of Christ consciousness or divine love, then find another path. And that's really what I've come to. I'm 40 now. I just turned 40 this past December. So for me, it's going back and understanding here, this is what it's really all about. You can explore all these doors to spirituality and understanding, but are you a beacon of light in your life? I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's when people ask me in a reading, what's my life purpose? And it's always the same thing. Are you being a channel of grace? Isn't that really what it's all about? And so I think that's where I'm at in my life. I've discovered and journeyed and explored for so many years while doing my spiritual work, and I come back full circle to the main foundation, which I think is the strongest ideal, being a channel of that divine light.
Absolutely.
Not to sound too preachy, but
no, not at all. It reminds me honestly of something that I was going to bring up as another question. You've been known to say, Darrin, that a person can go to 10 different workshops, psychic workshops, or workshops on being a psychic, but truly life experience and your relationship to God, your personal relationship, is what really is going to hone your psychic skills and carry you through your journey. I was curious, can you kind of touch on that a little more?
Absolutely. So many years, people want to know how to be psychic, how to be intuitive. And my first lesson is start a spiritual path. Have a spiritual foundation in your life, because psychic ability, psychic intuitive ability, energy healing, all of this is byproducts of your spiritual growth. It comes from your soul. So if you are on a spiritual path that is nurturing yourself and others, your spiritual abilities will naturally flower from that. I think the most dangerous thing that people can do for themselves, and it's actually very spiritually stunting, it will stunt your growth spiritually, is to try to be psychic without a connection to God. Because that is the source. Like Cayce said, psychic is of the soul, and since we are all souls, then we are obviously that divine makeup. We are made from that God source. So without that, we're flying high without any restraints, you see. You must have a spiritual foundation.
Excellent. And Darrin, as we look around at what's going on at kind of such a special time right now, there's a lot of people are perceiving a lot of chaos. And of course, that's kind of the way it's presented to us from some angles. But you are known to say that it's important that at such a special time as it is right now, kind of a time of accelerated spiritual growth, as yourself and Cayce has said, we as individuals we need to not look at our lives as being chaotic, and rather as this is an accelerated opportunity for rebalance. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we have to, again, it goes back to that wonderful New Age term that everybody uses forever and ever. You create your own reality. But what that really means is that you view your life through two perceptions of energy, love or fear. And if you know for a fact that if you look through the eyes of love, you have a completely different view on your life. If you look at it through the eyes of fear, there's another completely different view of life. So if you are looking at your life and you see nothing but chaos, that is a chance for you to step back and go, I need to rethink this. And I think from the Course in Miracles, I think the teaching of asking that Holy Spirit energy, and in my work, that's the divine feminine. The Holy Spirit is pushing all existence into wholeness. Cayce said it was the motivating force in our life. We ask that Holy Spirit to come in and correct our thinking on whatever the situation is that is bringing chaos. And we begin to see it differently. We begin to see beyond the chaos to the truth of what the situation, whatever that may be in our life, to rebalance that. So yes, we absolutely are in a time when we can use our ability to create our reality by how we choose to think and process that thought, whether it's through fear or through love. And we can see that fear is rampant all over the world. And people that haven't really moved through their consciousness, let's say they're like molasses, they're really slow, and up, getting the point across of consciousness, there is almost a breaking happening mentally. It's like two land masses coming together, and when that happens, when it begins to move, you have an earthquake. And I've seen that a lot in my readings, that people are sort of having these mental earthquakes in their life because their spiritual self is shooting through, and their mind that's still stuck in the 5th century world is not moving very much. So you've got this sort of little mental earthquakes going on. So spiritual consciousness is truly exploding. And how do we navigate through that with ease? We begin to build a spiritual life. We begin to pour into us that divine light that begins to fill the cracks and begins to reestablish and bring a foundation to our life, so that we don't have these little mental earthquakes in our life. We don't have the chaos. And if there is chaos, we're able to navigate through it with ease as much as possible. Now, when you're on a spiritual path and you begin to open up psychically, that doesn't mean that everything in your life isn't going to be hectic. There's going to be hectic times. There will be times when things aren't so positive. but you have the strength to navigate through them. I think that's the focus. And if you start your spiritual path with that intention, it's a lot easier, because I think people begin to open up to their spirituality, and sometimes they may have the wrong idea that, it's going to be Aladdin's magic lamp after that, and everything's going to be hunky-dory, and we're all going to live on this new age enlightened planet. And yeah, at some point I think that's going to happen, but until then, we still have to work with what's going on this planet and be as bright as possible to negate the negativity. But it's still going to be out there, but we're protected. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Darrin, over all the years of your individual one-on-one time with your clients, I'm curious, what do you see as some of the most difficult challenges facing us today as individuals? And also, what advice could you offer our listeners who may be kind of struggling to find the answers right now?
Well, it's all about why, and it's still the old question, why am I here? What's this all about? Because people are finding that having the house, having the car, and everything the law of attraction says you can have is still not enough. And so I'm helping people and helping them discover that you can co-create on an even higher reality, that it's not just having all the physical securities in the world, because you can have all that and your spirit is still in yearning. And that's really opening up to a bigger reality, connecting with the divine on a bigger reality within the self. And I've noticed that more and more people are asking deeper questions, and it's not as much, how much money am I going to make, and when am I going to fall in love, and, all this stuff. It's really gone beyond just physical insecurities in a reading to more spiritual questions, more deeper questions about meaning and why are we here and all this type of stuff. It's still going on, but it's a deeper level of understanding. People are realizing that what they're seeing in their physical life isn't all there is. And they want something deeper in their spirituality. And again, going beyond, because New Age and self-help has sort of become the in thing. But I think that's on a more egotistical level sometimes. We have all the books, we've gone to all the workshops, but why are we still feeling that something's missing? It's because we truly haven't been authentic with God. We haven't said, hey, I want to come back to you, and I want this life to be that growth spurt back to the source. And so what I do when I'm helping people in readings is become more familiar with how they perceive God, how they perceive that divine spiritual energy in their life. People still feel, not everybody, but there are still people that feel they're not worthy. And it's all about remembering where you come from. You are worthy because you're a child of the divine. And once you begin to really accept that, everything in your life that's fearful or imbalanced seems to just fall away, because nothing can penetrate that spiritual union between you and God. So that's, I think, the basis of my reading. Even if they have questions about money and finances, it's all really asking me, how can I make my life more spiritual? That's really what it's all about. And realizing that the universe begins to support you in all those little areas, your monthly bills and mortgages and rents. But when you have that focus on God, all of that begins to be balanced. That's how I look at it. And I think that's what people are really searching for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darrin, at times throughout your career, how important has it been for you to take time for yourself to kind of recharge and reconnect? And also, as a second question for that, if I may ask, how does Darrin recharge and reconnect in order to best be of service for your clients?
Well, I've been in what if we can call it that, I've been in the psychic biz for a long time, and I've met a lot of very popular psychics, very well-known psychics, and I had the opportunity to look behind the scenes and see what happens when spiritual teachers or psychics do not take time for themselves. It is absolutely crippling to their energy, to their body. And I decided a long time ago that I would take time for myself. I've been taking years off from doing readings to do more self-exploration, because I didn't want to not have the ability to do the service, but also give back to myself. and my own spirituality. So I can give people their spiritual food and knowledge, but I've got to do that for myself too. So I've taken several months and even years off from doing personal readings to do my own search in my life. And how I do that, and what's big for me to recharge, is reading spiritual material, taking time in the morning, and believe it or not, my morning coffee, when all the TV and technology is turned off and it's just me, that really helps me recharge. I love taking nature walks. Nature is absolutely essential if you're doing a lot of spiritual work, a lot of grounding. But daily, it's prayer. I do daily prayer work to cleanse my energy inside and out and keep my focus on the work. That's the most important thing. But really having quiet moments to myself is the most essential. Absolutely. Because It's not all about giving readings all the time. It's not all about teaching. You've got to take your own steps to yourself and have that quiet time. You've got to scope it out and make sure that you have a balance between the work that you're doing. And this is whether you're doing spiritual work or just daily work, 9-to-5 jobs. Same thing, a balance between yourself and the self that's doing the work in the world. You have to have a bridge between the two.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Darrin, I want to shift gears just a little bit here. You have such a fascinating background, and I want our listeners to be able to get a taste of kind of what makes you you. So in shifting gears, I want to ask you a little bit about your background in the paranormal, because I know this is such an important part of who you are. And I'm curious, why is this such an important part of who you are as a healer and a psychic intuitive?
I don't remember when I didn't see or interact with spirits in my life. It has always been there, always. And it was a natural part of my life until I started becoming a little bit more conscious in what people were thinking about the paranormal, especially in church. I'd go to church and I'd hear, if you talk to spirits and you have interactions with the dead, then you're of the devil. And I thought, I'm in trouble. Because I saw the dead. They would show up in my bedroom at night. They would, I was talking to nature spirits in the yard when I was a kid. I mean, the whole supernatural world was just part of my world. It was absolutely natural. And as I got older, I began to realize that there was a lot of fear surrounding the paranormal and the supernatural. So especially religious fear. But I think the reason it's so important to me is because when I was growing up and the supernatural was a reality, it showed me the essence of God, that there was a God and we're all a part of it, that this physical reality wasn't just it, that there was this amazing spiritual community behind this veil that surrounds us all. So it was incredible for me growing up. And once I got through my teen years and early adult years and came back around, that's in my book, Reader of Hearts, if anyone wants to read about that. But I went through my journey of the religious and the spiritual and sort of that battle that I think we all have, especially in the Bible Belt, between those two worlds. Coming back around again to the supernatural and realizing that these spiritual forces, God's spirit community, is all around us to help us. And as far as ghosts and hauntings, which I've worked with all my career, it's a redemption process. You have these lost souls that either don't know they're gone, they're dead, or they don't want to go. And it's like therapy even with the living. It's like ghost therapy. So I help them out and I get them to cross over so they can go to the light. They can go on to their next level of consciousness. So it's an amazing, I can't even imagine not having this work in my life with the supernatural, because sometimes it's not, I don't even know the difference between the physical and the supernatural, because I'm so in the middle and I straddle both worlds. So it's just who I am. It's absolutely who I am. And that's why I wrote Mysteries of the Supernatural, because folks were asking me, can you write a book about how to handle the supernatural? Because it's happening all over the world. People are having these interactions, whether it's ghosts, ET contacts, Sasquatch sightings. All of this is beginning to be more and more apparent on this planet. So we need something to help us deal with that. And part of that is your spiritual foundation. Once you realize that you're a soul created by God and that there's many mansions within God's universe, none of this begins to be scary anymore. It's just reality. So that's why the supernatural is important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Darrin, you have also said in the past that I love the spin that you put on this. It's such a great perspective, and I'd never heard anybody put it this way before I heard it from you. You say that psychic intuition is not a gift, but rather a skill, and
Yeah.
rather the messages and the healings that one receives from this skill are the gifts themselves. Can you explain that a little better to us?
Yeah, we're all souls. I've said that over and over. Cayce has said that. All the masters have said that the kingdom of heaven is within us. And everything is energy. So in order for us to read energy, we are energy, we can read energy, we have to understand psychic intuition. And a lot of folks have asked me over the years, am I psychic or am I intuitive? I say you're both, because they go hand in hand, although very different. I want you to think of psychic ability as a skill that is extroverted. Intuition is an ability, a skill that is introverted. For example, when I'm doing a reading and I get a psychic vision of the client when she was 12 years old, and I see this memory where her father is saying, you're just like your mother, you're no good. My intuition comes in and fills in the details on how that emotionally programmed her into her adult life. So therefore, when I see a vision like that, I ask my intuition, okay, well, what has this done to her emotional self now? And intuition fills in the details. So sometimes people will get just a psychic vision. They'll just have a flash of something, but they don't have the intuitive information to back it up. You have to ask for it. Healers often have empathy. So they'll have an intuitive feeling that this person next to them is just not having a good day. You ask your psychic ability and say, why are they not having a good day? Oh, and then you get a flash of the argument they had with their partner that morning. Do you see how that works? Psychic is out there. Intuition is within here, within ourselves. So, for example, medical intuition is a perfect example. If you're reading somebody and you feel like they have a pain in their side, intuitively you know the energy is not right, and you get the psychic vision that, oh, well, yeah, they got appendicitis. So that's how that works hand in hand, and that's how it works with me. So instead of just intuitive training or psychic training, I try to help people focus on both of these skills together and go hand in hand, because it's extremely important. Now, there are times you don't need the intuitive levels. Psychic detectives. For example, I did a murder case many, many, many years ago, and I tapped into the photo. I had it turned upside down, and I didn't really know what the crime scene was. I tapped into the photo using psychometry, using psychic touch, and I got the psychic vision of how the person was killed. I don't want the details. I don't want the feelings. Do you see what I mean? I don't want that intuitive response of how the victim felt while they were dying. We all know that. I just need the psychic vision so that I can help with the case. So that's how you use it. You can use it, these skills, when you need them. Isn't that interesting? And they're all skills. It's not just this heavenly gift. We have the ability to hone these skills. Now, not everybody's a psychic detective or a medical intuitive, but we have the ability to sort of access these attributes of the soul. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. It's also a very inspiring way to look at it, because it says that, hey, it's a skill, and it being a skill, everybody can hone that skill. So it's open to anybody. It's just, and it also,
Right.
it lights the fire under your butt. It says you got to go and get it, hone that skill yourself.
Absolutely.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah. And again, you take the word gift out, because that sort of separates people. It's like, well, I'm not worthy to have that gift. Now, not everyone's going to be an Edgar Cayce. But yet you can learn to play the piano. You may not play it like Mozart, but you can learn to play it. See?
Absolutely.
It's the same thing with psychic intuition. You can learn to hone the skill, but it may not be your mission to be a psychic reader. Everybody's psychic, but not everybody is a psychic. Do you see that? but we can use
Yeah,
those skills in our daily life.
absolutely. Wonderful. Darrin, I want to shift gears again here. I want to talk about your upcoming conference at the A.R.E. You've been a
Mm-hmm.
presenter a number of times at the A.R.E., but this upcoming Soul Growth Saturday event is a little different. It's on February
Mm-hmm.
20th, 2016, so it'll be later on this month. This one is titled Supernatural Discoveries, Your Psychic Ability, Soul Wisdom, and Unseen Forces. And for
Mm-hmm.
someone, Darrin, who may be attending one of your presentations for the first time, say, what sort of experience do you hope to facilitate? And also, what do you hope that they can take away from your presentation?
Well, this particular event is my first on the information that's within Mysteries of the Supernatural, my newest book. And the entire day is discovering the levels of the supernatural realm, which I have come to sort of put together in my career. The different members of God's spirit community, how we can keep our auric energy, or our sphere of influence, I like to call it, clear of negativity, how to enhance your psychic protection, what happens if you have a supernatural encounter. I mean, we go from everywhere to ghosts and fallen angels all the way up to UFOs and Bigfoot. I mean, that's the span of my experience. And it's all field work. Been doing this for years, so everything in this book is things that I have experienced that my guides, my spiritual guides, have taught me while experiencing this. So this isn't anything I've just read in the book and decided to teach. This is actual field experience that I've had that I feel like I could share with people that want to attend. So this is completely different. If folks have attended my Energetics of the Psychic Self, that's all about psychic intuition. And I talk a little bit about that, but it's really how to navigate through the supernatural and what to do if you find yourself beyond the veil. Because again, the veil between worlds is thinning and thinning and thinning so rapidly that we almost go in and out like Alice through the looking glass. So I hope, and my hope is that people walk away from this day workshop strengthened and more knowledgeable about the supernatural and less fearful of it. That's the thing. A lot of people are still afraid of the supernatural. And I want people to understand how strong and spiritually grounded they are and how protected they are. So that's my goal for this day-long workshop.
Excellent. And Darrin, what I gather from your message is that it's really a message of self-empowerment. You want to give people the tools to do the work themselves, to develop the skills themselves, and to better their lives themselves. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that is the goal of every spiritual teacher, hopefully every psychic, every healer, every spiritual master. It's all about helping someone else understand how powerful they are as a soul connected to God. Absolutely. Because again, I'd love to see a time when you don't need a psychic, you don't need a minister. As Jesus said, go direct. You can do as I can do. And when everybody understands that and embodies that energy, and that vibration begins to rise higher and higher on this planet, that's that New Jerusalem. So that's the goal, is helping somebody else understand who they are and how to live in that truth. That's absolutely it.
Wonderful. And Darrin, I'm curious, what do you have in the works right now, and what do you have in the works for the future? What can we expect? Is there anything exciting in the works for you?
I'm working on a couple of new book projects. One is, and I may put them together, I don't know yet, but one is on God's spirit community. A lot of people want to know about angels and spirit guides and how to work with those energies. And I want to put something like that together. But another big passion of mine is called, and I may title it The Psychic Christian. And it's a book about how to bridge metaphysics and Christianity. Especially growing up in the Bible Belt, there's still a big imbalance. And I want people to understand these amazing spiritual truths that can come together with both of those worlds. Because that's been my life, growing up as a fundamentalist Christian and being psychic. So a lot of people are going through that. They are intuitive, psychic intuitive, they're having supernatural experiences, and they still are Christian. So do they have to give that up? Absolutely not. It enhances your spiritual connection to the Christ consciousness. So that's one of my big projects right now, is writing a book to help people bridge the gap between Christianity and metaphysical truths.
That's wonderful. Wow. Could you give us a little more insight into that? Because I know that's a topic I'm sure we could go off on for a while, but it seems like that's a topic that's really, really applicable for today. There, as we have religion and metaphysics and science are all now overlapping in ways that we haven't necessarily seen in a long time. So a lot of people are struggling to kind of find that balance in their sort of ideals and their beliefs. So can you tell us a little bit about what you found about how to balance Christianity and metaphysics and being a psychic?
Yeah, well, we can look into the world and see all the new discoveries happening, of this forbidden archaeology and the connection between ancient aliens and the Bible and all this amazing stuff that is really coming to the surface. So people's religious views, whether they like it or not, is beginning to sort of weaken. And it's supposed to be that way. We are supposed to get this religion, man-made religion, fundamentalism, anything that separates you from somebody else, that has to be shaken up. And that's what's happening. I've had people ask me, do I have to give up my love for Christianity? Absolutely not. Because if you take the mystical teachings of Jesus, it will enhance your spiritual and your psychic intuitive self. He said, you can do as I can do. And we all know that Jesus was total super psychic. Okay? I mean, he was a master healer, a master exorcist. He had the ability to go completely direct to the source, to do the work that he knew he was supposed to do. And he said, you can do this too, even better. So we have to get rid of religion, though, because, religion was made after Jesus resurrected. He had nothing to do with it. I always say Jesus has nothing to do with Christianity. That was a man-made issue, which we could have a whole other hour on that. But how do we bridge the gap? Get to the person who was Jesus. Get to that vibrational frequency of Yeshua, Yahweh, the Christ. And that's where it begins to change, that you're going to the energy, that consciousness that Jesus used, the Christ consciousness, fueled by the Holy Spirit. You get to the meat of what he was talking about, and you enhance your connection to that ideal. Even Cayce said the Christ ideal, that is the highest ideal that we could shoot for. And that's what it's about. But again, it means that you do have to release a lot of the fear-based religious fundamentalism. You have to. It's like chains on the soul. You've got to release it and understand that you are connecting to a consciousness that's going to enhance your life. And I think it's just terrible. I remember growing up in church and just seeing people so fearful. It wasn't about really loving God. It was about not going to hell. That's really what it was all about. And if people were getting, quote, saved, which completely perverted the redemption process. The redemption process is actually how we transform into our higher self so that we, again, can go back to the source, because all souls go back to God at some point or another. But the redemption process was not meant to say, if you don't believe my way, you're going to hell. I think that was the most horrible thing that could have been manifested out of man's ego, was the fear that if you don't believe this way, you're going to burn in hell forever. Really? It doesn't even make sense. But when you're in that mind frame, like I was growing up, that's all you didn't want to do. So I was constantly praying to God every night to save my soul. Just in case I died, I wouldn't go to hell. Now, that has nothing to do with spirituality. It has nothing to do with enhancing your connection to Christ. It's all about loving Christ in your mind so you don't burn in hell. And I thought that was absolutely terrible, because growing up and I began to understand what they were teaching in church, it wasn't the same Christ that I had visions of and connections to as a child. This Jesus they were talking about in the church was not the Christ that came to me and that was with me my entire childhood. So that was part of my exploration too, is how to get back to that original concept, that understanding of Christ consciousness and energy. So yeah, it's a big step for people, but again, they're realizing that the church isn't doing it for them. Absolutely not. And you don't have to give up Christianity to go into the sort of the New Age thought or metaphysics. It enhances your Christian connection. Whether you're Buddhist or whatever, connect to that energy of that source and make sure that it is helping you be a brighter beacon and bringing unity in your life, not separating you. That's what it's all about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Darrin. It's your
You
perspective has
have
just
to remember, I have
always been
preachers
so
in my family,
refreshing
so
and
I can,
enlightening.
I can preach. So.
Excellent. And Darrin, as you look around at everything going on today, we talked about it being such a unique time and such a special time for accelerated spiritual growth. In thinking also ahead into the future and the days to come, what has you personally most inspired?
What have I inspired?
What has you most inspired?
Ask me again. I didn't really understand the question.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry.
No, I think, give me 1 second. Is my audio going in and out?
Just a little bit, but you're fine now.
Okay. All right, cool. Let me make sure, because let me check my headset real quick. Yeah, my headset battery's about to die, so this will work out perfect. You can hear me okay, though?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, I'll ask that question one more time. This will be the last question,
Sure.
So it'll work out because my headset's about to die on me. Okay. Darrin, as you look around at everything going on today at such a special time of accelerated spiritual growth, I'm curious, what has you most inspired as you look forward in the days to come?
Oh, I think what inspires me the most is the discovery of these new realities from centuries ago. These archaeological finds that are proving the existence of these major intelligent civilizations way before we were ever blinking the eye of this physical reality. The higher levels of learning that people are now having the courage to embrace on a spiritual level. The courage of every soul on this planet to say that we need to change the vibrational frequencies here. And that's the first step, that we are done with this power play. We are done with this sort of dark, egotistical energy that's tried to interfere with not only civilization's evolution, but our own spiritual evolution. People are finding the courage to say no, and they're changing themselves to match that higher frequency that God is just shedding down onto this planet for us to retrieve. That makes me extremely emotional. It makes me, and there's no words for it. It's just an incredible time to be. Even 20 years ago, it's even more of an incredible time to be a spirit on this planet right now, because of the power that we're accessing and the ability and the proof that we're seeing that this energy is going to raise us up higher and higher and create a spiritualized planet. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. Absolutely. And the teachings of Edgar Cayce or the teachings of J.J. Hurtak's Keys of Enoch, which I'm totally passionate about too, these high vibrational levels of knowledge that people are having the courage to access and embody. That's what I see that's going to spiritualize the planet, is that people are truly living and embodying these spiritual truths. It's not just something you're reading in a bookstore anymore. It's a lifestyle. And that lifestyle begins to change the planet. That's what makes me passionate and what keeps me working. It's what keeps me doing what I do.
Wow. Thank you, Darrin. Well, we will end on that. That is a perfect way to end. So thank you so much for that nice ending message. I hope that's inspiring to our listeners out there. And Darrin, thank you for just doing what you do and being available to be of service to all those who are in need right now. So thank you for being a part of the a.r.e. family, and thank you for coming on the show today.
All right. I look forward to the next time.
Don't miss your chance to spend a day working with Darrin Owens at the A.R.E. here in Virginia Beach on February 20th of 2016 as Darrin hosts a workshop entitled Supernatural Discoveries, Your Psychic Ability, Soul Wisdom, and the Unseen Forces. To register for Darrin's workshop or other conferences offered here at the A.R.E., you can visit our website at edgarcayce.org/conferences. If you'd like to learn more about Darrin or purchase any of his best-selling books, you can visit his personal website at darrinowensofficial.com. For everyone here at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, and of course moretalk.tv, I'm your host, Brenton Bickerstaff. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to indulge in the wisdom of Edgar Cayce with us, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Much love. And now it is time for the thought for the day here on Reflections. And joining me as always to help in the thought for the day is Dr. Bill Austin. Bill, thank you for joining me on Reflections, the wisdom of Edgar Cayce.
Oh, greetings, Brett. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And if you can go ahead and read the thought for the day today for our listeners.
I'd be happy to. This thought comes from reading 5563-1. Happiness, then, is not a thing set apart from self, but the conditions with which one approaches that in hand to be done. For when one considers that the position of self is hard to bear, is not as is desired, the desire of the heart often makes one afraid, unless that desire is ever in the attitude of, use me, O God, as I am. Use me, O God, as I am. You know, within this reading, when he says happiness is but the condition with which one approaches that in hand to be done, it comes down to attitude. And I think attitude for me is tightly knit with intention. And if that intention is, use me, O God, as I am, sometimes that puts a different perspective on the issue at hand. I don't think there are any accidents, and things are laid out so that we have the opportunity, I think, to be our brother's keeper, to lend a hand, to help, I'm going to say, give or administer or manifest God's love to another human being. And that isn't always easy to see at first blush when you're looking at a situation or trying to deal with a particular issue. But I think if we can step back and say, you know, it's not my will, but thy will be done. Use me, O God, as I am. We wouldn't be chosen to act in a certain situation if we didn't have the ability, or I'll say the help, to use our abilities to help manifest that love of God, especially to another human being.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Love that. Yeah, this one's great. This one has a few things in it, and I love that you immediately went for the first one, which is happiness then is not a thing set apart from self, but the conditions with which one approaches that in hand to be done. I love this because it's happiness is always seems to be something that we're always grasping at, trying to find. And really it's this state of mind, this attitude, as you said, that we carry into our every interaction. That's what happiness really is. It's not something that we don't have a separate thing that's going to, this contains the happiness that I can pull it out and put it within myself. It doesn't work like that. It works, you find that happiness, you find that peace in an internal environment in yourself, and then that is the energy, that's the vibe, that's what you bring to every condition, every environment that you go into. It's what you bring to every decision, and that's what happiness is really about. It's what you bring to the table. I love this because this one's packed. It also talks about Casey addresses. He says, "For when one considers that the position of self is hard to bear, is not as is desired, the desire of the heart often makes one afraid." This, to me, summarizes what we're going through as a culture right now, because there's a lot of fear within the hearts of individuals right now. And the fear comes from a lot of different things, but Casey goes on to address in this excerpt, he says, "Unless that desire is ever in the attitude of, 'Use me, O God, as I am.'" And I love the
Yeah.
way he says this. The last part, he says, "Use me as I am," which to me is an essential part of kind of helping to resolve the psychological issues that maybe a lot of us are dealing with, which is we want to change ourselves. We're not comfortable with ourselves. We haven't come to fully accept ourselves for who we truly are as we are in the moment. And I love how Casey addresses that. He says, "Use me, oh God, as I am." I don't have to change to be used by God. I don't have to change to be of service to others. Where I am right now, if I have the eyes to see that, there are tons of opportunities for me to be of service to others. I'm just not, it's all about developing the eyes to see that. And, that's what the Casey material is all about. And that's what enlightenment's
Yes.
all about. But yeah, I love this one. So
Mm. Well said. I like the way you put that together.
thank you, Bill. Thank you. Wonderful. Well, Bill, thank you so much, as always, for joining me for the thought for the day.
Oh, my pleasure. Always great to be with you, Brent. Nothing better than mulling over and sharing some of our thoughts with these wonderful thoughts from the Casey readings.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, Bill, thank you for joining me, and you have a wonderful week.
Thank you. I hope you do as well, Brent. Take care.
Thank you.